Blessings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the channel today. Hope you're doing well wherever you may find yourselves. I'm Dane, your host. Today's episode is one that I've been chomping at the bit to do for quite some time, and today's the day. And it has to do with both sides of the spectrum regarding the question, is there a wealth of great music out there? On one side, you have those who believe, yes, there is a great wealth of music to be had out there, and other side of the spectrum argue, no, there's not much, if any at all. So that's what I want to discuss with you today. But before I do that, I do want to dive into a little bit of music and philosophy regarding the word taste. And yes, I will connect the dots with respect to how that quasi-philosophical discussion of taste leads us into answering or trying to answer this question. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So when we talk about taste, there are different elements and or definitions with respect to taste in the arts, especially music, since that's the order of the day, music, since this is a music channel. A person's liking for particular flavors, figuratively speaking, of course, sound, style, voice, nuances, production, engineering, talent, all that, right? Next, a person's tendency to like and dislike certain things. The ability to discern is the next one. The ability to discern what is of a good quality or of a high aesthetic standard versus what is not. And 4, taste derives from experience and experimenting with choices outside your comfort zone and then making a decision. All right, so here's some of the philosophical connections to taste. So, do you really have taste if there's little to your liking? That's one extreme. Do you really have taste, again, if there's so too little to your liking? Because you're not experimenting. And therefore you're not experiencing. Or simply put, you're not experiencing much, and therefore you're not experimenting. You're not jumping off that comfort zone, right? Take example Blue Oyster Cult. When I first heard Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper, I said, oh, I gotta dive into more of this. And at first I was disappointed. It's like, who's this guy singing? Eric Bloom? Where's the other guy, right? And so I didn't listen to them at first. And then slowly but surely, I started to really get into them and start to love Eric Bloom's voice as well. I still like Buck Dharma's voice. He's more aesthetically pleasing, but there's a certain charm to Eric Bloom's voice. So if all you like about Blue Oyster Cult is the few songs, compared to Eric's not many, is the Buck Dharma songs, well, are you really a Blue Oyster Cult fan would be someone's argument. So that's an example of with respect to one band. But if, let's say you only like 12 bands in the umbrella of rock music, do you really like music at all with respect to rock? If all you listen to is Miles Davis when it comes to jazz, are you really a jazz fan? So that's kind of the order of the day when it comes to that type of music and philosophy. Now we have the other end of this philosophical spectrum. What if you, and we're just talking about rock music here and all the subgenres, do you really have taste in rock music if you like too much, if you like everything or almost everything, 90%, 99% of all the subgenres, death metal, emo, jazz fusion, prog rock, the whole spiel, right? Everything, schmeal. So if you like everything or nearly everything, isn't the idea of having taste negated? Since, if we talk about the definition above, a person's tendency to like and dislike certain things. Do you have taste then if you like everything or almost everything? Since all things are defined by their opposite, right? Good versus evil, dark versus light. What my taste is defined by the collection of what I like, what I find valuable, pleasant, aesthetically pleasing, aesthetically valuable, in relationship to what I don't. The inverse, right? So we say things like, that's his or her taste, or that's not his or her taste, okay? So if you like everything in rock, all the subgenres, as I say, do you really have taste? So I'll ask again. If someone likes everything, or nearly everything, is it really taste? So here's some of the philosophical parts. There's an old, ancient, medieval, or further back Asian saying about reaching enlightenment. And it's something like this. I have become everything, and therefore I am nothing. Think of the Matrix. Why does, in the third movie, Agent Smith get defeated by Neo? He absorbs 99% of everyone in the Matrix into his own being, and so he becomes nothing. He's not his own individuality anymore. And that's why Neo, who is an individual, is able to defeat him. So the connection is, if you like all music within the purview of rock now, which I'll talk, or beyond, you like every type of music and every subgenre of every category, then you don't like anything based on that connection. Do you really like something? Can you call yourself having taste if you like everything? Just a philosophical question that may not be able to be answered. Just throwing that out there. So here's the connection to today's topic. Is there a wealth of great music out there? Because that's what got me thinking. This notion of taste is what got me thinking about trying to answer this question again. Is there a wealth of great music out there? So on one hand, you have this, and this is again the impetus for how I came up with wanting to do this episode. Why I started thinking about all this. One, a few music or many content creators on YouTube or other platforms, journalists, etc., critics, who seem to like everything, argue there's a ton of wonderful and amazing music out there. Great, amazing, masterpieces, all that. On the other, you have people like They Wrecker Nations 8990, who posted on a video of mine called Confessions to Bands I've Outgrown. He or she said, I've been sick of the music scene forever. I still go back to the 60s and 70s, one hell of a lot. Disco killed music, rap buried it, and the SHI, you know what, I hear these days doesn't even qualify as music. In a similar vein, a couple months ago, Martin Barr of Jethro Tull, the ex-guitarist of the band, said that 99% of most music, specifically somewhat rock music, is garbage, or something to that effect. Jazz musician Wynton Marsalis once said something similar regarding, I think, jazz in general. Excuse me. So those are the both sides of the spectrum. Excuse me. Where do you fall? Now, there's two possible explanations as to why someone, now we're just dealing with those people who like everything or almost everything. Two possible explanations. One is that they're genuine. But this is a rare person indeed. They have a wide range of tastes, yet it still begs the question, right? Do these people truly have taste, since there's little to nothing not liked by them? Okay. Again, if you like everything, that seems or does undermine or negate the very definition of taste. If you like everything, then you don't have taste. Not saying you have to agree. Here's the more likely reason for those who say they like everything. It's materialism, it's greed, same thing really, shopper's disease, it's an addiction, or it's people who admittedly or imply, or both, who have conditioned themselves to like everything. If you're a YouTuber and you promote that you like everything within the purview of umbrella of rock music, it's a possibility is you want those clicks. You're doing this to keep the channel going. you don't need to buy everything to keep the channel going. So I'm just pointing that out. This is the type of person who is the fraud, or they're disingenuous. Their credibility is sketchy, suspect, it's shaky, perhaps dishonest. Next page. Why do I believe that? Well, because these content creators, journalists, critics, whatever you want to call them, wherever they are, social media or not, a lot of them don't give bad reviews. And I've spoken about this before. They don't want to offend. They want those likes, those clicks. Again, that's what it's about for them. They're trying to please everybody. They want to sugarcoat everything as great. Week in and week out, they want to talk about these flavor of the month new bands, or those old legendary bands whose back half of the catalog is stale, mediocre, sometimes garbage, uninspired. So this flavor of the month, I'd love to know these people who week in and wake out who promote these, very rare or unheard of or new artists who will be swept under the rug 3 weeks from now or a year from now. How many times do they go back to listen to that? Are they really that gung-ho about this, or are they just there for the likes, that sort of thing, right? So I'm very cynical about that. So overall, liking everything or nearly everything is unrealistic. It's so hard to believe anyone can like everything in a certain art form, whether it's a specific subgenre of music, in this case, rock music, and all its categories that go with that. Some of my books are over here. Same thing with books, movies, art, painting, sculpture. If you like everything, do you really have taste? If you're into painting and you like every movement, same thing with film, do you really have taste? Because taste is predicated on your likes and not likes. And if you have no dislikes, then that voids the meaning of the word taste, you could argue. All right, now there may be a third possible explanation for why people like everything, this category of persons who argue there is a wealth of great music out there. They like so much because they've become bored with the classics. Again, I've said this before, people who claim that Unmasked and The Elder are equally as good as Kiss Alive, the first Kiss Alive, or two for that matter. It might also because of that brainwashing, that conditioning. There's a YouTuber out there who talked about how he bought this album by this band, and after 3 listens, he still didn't like it, but by darn it, he was gonna listen to it because he paid good money, and lo and behold, on the 5th listen, he likes it. Okay. Does he really like it though? He forced himself, or she forced himself, because there's more than one person that talked about that online before. Anyway, I'm just saying. And other examples, some things I've talked about in different videos for that particular episode, but it's connected here. Why it's rare to like everything. Again, the data shows, the statistics shows, it's normal for the front half of a band who's been around for 50 years, that front half is going to be better than the second half. And I talked about this in a separate video on its own, because it's not a wine that ages better with time. Okay, that's not how it works with music. Bands peak too early. Some of them, great legendary bands, are winding down their careers as we speak, and some have already winded theirs, and some should have ended their careers a long time ago. Think Kiss, right? Think Whitesnake, you name it. I mentioned a video yesterday. I think we have a new genre on our hands, not really new, but something called imitation classic rock. Those bands pale. There's some good stuff there, but some of those bands pale in comparison to those legendary bands. And that's normal. And I've talked about in another video we're all connected here, right? About how some band members in those legendary bands are irreplaceable. You can't replace them because they're special. And I'll talk more about that, and then that's the whole point. They're special. And so these people who like everything, whatever platform they're on, they don't want to give bad reviews, as I said. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. I will give bad reviews. I'm not afraid to. I have to tell you how I really feel. I have to be honest. It shows you my taste. Again, what I like versus what I don't like. You have to include both of those when you discuss taste. Most important. Going to give bad reviews from time to time. Again, the honesty thing, but it helps make suggestions on music you may be interested in and maybe what you may want to avoid. Okay? You have to do both. Nothing I say here is definitive. It's just an opinion. Nothing anyone else says is definitive because they're opinions. But I'll have more to say that in a minute or two. They're just suggestions. Ultimately, the viewer has to listen to the music and make their own choice. And I'll say something more along those lines. So when it comes to trust, can you trust someone who likes everything? They buy so much. I'm of the opinion that a lot of these content creators or critics, where they buy so much because without doing so, they can't continue on. And I think you can, as I said before, without doing that. It's about income. It's about keeping the channel going. It's not about sharing love of music, really. That's the front they're giving, but their real agenda is it nice to get some money and rake it in on advertising? Sure, but not at the expense of one's integrity. That's how I feel about that. Now, the other thing, these champions and apologists for arguing that there's a wealth of great music out there will say, well, those of you who say that there isn't a great wealth of music out there, you're doing a disservice to those who are looking for music. Perhaps, but overall, I would argue that these people are sharing their opinion. It's just their opinion. And people are smart enough to go, well, I may not believe that. If someone says there isn't a lot of great music out there, well, then you should take that with a grain of salt and do your own research. Opinions are to be weighed, not just rush, okay, and you buy into the okey doke that blind belief. Well, someone said that there isn't a great wealth of music out there, so I'm just going to believe that and not look. No, you it's an opinion. So I believe people who say that have a right to say there isn't a great wealth of music out there because that's their opinion. And no, they're really not doing a disservice because, again, it's their own opinion, and you're smart enough to go, well, that's an opinion. I'm gonna take it. Maybe they're right, but let me see for myself. It's like when someone gives a positive or negative review for, say, a new album, you're still going to listen to it, right? And then make a decision, tied or not, to that person's argument, right? You don't have to agree. So when it comes to Martin Barr's notion that 99% of all rock music out there is horrible or garbage or whatever, and the gentleman or woman who said that they've been sick of the music scene forever, that they stay in the 60s and 70s. I get that. But at the same time, my opinion, I keep looking for new music to like. It's just who I am. My belief is that, so here's my belief. Where do I fit on the spectrum? Is there a great wealth of music out there to be had? Is there not a great wealth of music to be had out there? Martin Barr and the person who wrote about the 60s and 70s. I'm in between, but probably a little closer to not enough good music or great music out there. But I'm not the total negative Nelly, 99%. I would say, I don't even want to give a percentage, but if you split the spectrum in half, I'm a little bit closer to, just a smidge, to the person and persons who believe, like Martin Barre, that there's not a great wealth. I think there is some good and great music out there. There isn't a ton, but there is some good and great music out there. But it takes patience, it takes time, the willingness to look and not be dismissive. However, at the same time, those who argue that there is none, I totally respect their opinion. They may have tried and tried and tried, they're just not, or they try and once in a while there's something here, there's something there, but it's too far, few and far, what's the expression? It's too few and in between, right? I can't remember that expression, too far and few in between. Anyway, so you get my point, right? I hope. Sorry about that. So what I've found is that there is some good music at times, but really great, extraordinary music is rare to find indeed. Isn't that the point? If everything is special, and I'm quoting the wonderful comedian George Carlin, who left us too soon, if everything is special, then the word special loses its meaning. Hence, going back to my argument about legendary bands who've retired or moved on or passed away, they're irreplaceable because they were special. You can't just replace someone special with anybody. And even if the person that takes their place is special, they're not the same special, right? So keep that in mind. So overall, I'm winding things up now. Overall, there's a huge difference between the person, the fan, the critic, the journalist, the YouTuber who says it's just, keyword, just their opinion. Meaning, take it or leave it, I'm just one person. Weigh my opinion. What do you think? Versus those fans, those people, those critics, those journalists, those YouTubers who say, quote, it's my opinion. But what they're really saying to you is, I'm here to tell you, you're supposed to believe it too, or you're wrong. That's the type of person you want to avoid. So ultimately, what it boils down to, only you can decide. Is there a wealth of great music out there? Thank you so much for watching. Take care.